Well, it's another late night morning brew.
Yes.
It's the Bruins out west to get on the road. And the good news is they get on the road because they seem to be playing better on the road, something we talked about on previous Morning Brew with Jaffe and Razor. We welcome you in after the Boston Bruins lose in overtime to the Calgary Flames 3-2 after a very fun, entertaining third period by the Bruins, and especially entertaining overtime. This also comes after the previous night, Wednesday night, in Edmonton, the Bruins with a euphoric 6-5 victory in a highly entertaining game that we're going to touch on as well. And we're going to hit it all. We're going to run. We got so much stuff to get through. Let's just not waste any more time. Let's remind you, Morning Brew Jaffe and Razor is presented by Berkshire Bank. This episode is made possible by Fazenda Coffee and the Omni Boston Hotel at the Seaport. We'll talk about them in a little bit. One thing, though, I want to talk about quickly, something new that we're helping promote right now. It's about the Bruins Authentics. That's the official game-used, team-issued, and team stock memorabilia of the Boston Bruins. Think jerseys, sticks, gloves, pucks, skates. These Bruins Authentics are awesome. And Razor, you can check out the latest items that come straight from the locker room and the ice, and you can own a piece of the action. And every item fully authenticated. It's got to be authenticated, and it is by OPSEC. Learn more and sign up for Authentics newsletter at bruinsauthentics.com and be the first to hear about the latest memorabilia drops. And why is this extra important? Because it's also the centennial season, so the stuff's even cooler. Very, very unique items. All right, go check out bruinsauthentic.com. Razor, 3 out of 4 points on the road. Satisfied, very, somewhat, or I think I know where you're going.
Yeah, very, 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 very. I said it after the post game. When they gave up that second goal in the first period tonight in Calgary, I thought that was no bueno. I thought it was 4-5-1 at that point. That's a killer.
They had been down 1-0. They tie it up 1-1, and then under less than a minute later, 2-1. Like, you can't have that crap happen.
No, and as like that's the worst thing that can happen on a back-to-back. 90% of this teams in the league fold. They crack. They can't get it back. Calgary would jump all over them, and it would really get ugly. So I think the fact that they got this 1 point tonight in Calgary and made the overtime entertaining is a huge bonus. 3 out of 4 in Alberta puts them in a really good spot after a lackadaisical homestand.
Yeah, the homestand finished okay with the win over Dallas, but the effort, look, Dallas played them tough, especially considering the players that they were missing. They outshot them vastly. Now, Dallas is a volume shot type of team. Edmonton outshot them as well, but Bruins still had some great chances on their own. I want to talk Edmonton game first. Can we? Can we go there? I thought that was the game of the year so far, regular season game of the year. I thought it had everything. Excitement. You had mistakes. You had goalie saves. You had some of the highest level players in the world playing there. You had characters. You had everything. You had a Bruins lead. You see a Bruins lead go away. What I loved most about that Edmonton game was just how the Bruins said, at least to me, all right, we screwed up in the third from goaltender out. Everybody made some mistakes there. We're not going to let it break us. And to come through, and Charlie McAvoy coming through in particular in OT, spectacular.
Yeah, it was an awesome game. And it was too late to watch live for me, but I did watch it in the morning when I'm up early with the kiddos. They were happy to watch it because it's school break. It was, what made the game, especially for me, was the mistakes. Whether it was the goaltenders making mistakes, whether it was the defense on both sides, it just opened up enough. I don't want it opened up all the way where it's, 10-9, but it was opened enough where it was back and forth. And, I've watched enough highlights this season that I know if it's 4-1 or 3-1 out in Edmonton, it's far from over.
Right.
And it's actually harder to play that team when you have a 2 or 3 goal lead. And I know it doesn't make any sense. It's like when someone says the 2 goal lead in hockey is the worst lead. It's no, 1 goal lead is the worst But it feels the same in Edmonton, where the saying of being up 2 or 3 goals on them is more dangerous than being behind, because they go and they throw everything, and
they open you up. They do.
It's just absolute siege, and it's not the first or last team that's going to lose a 3-goal lead. And like you said, the biggest key is they didn't break, and their best players found a way to get them out of that game and with 2 points.
I mean, the way that the game started, the Bruins, they started bringing bodies to the front of the net. Geekie scores a goal. Warren Foegele scored. By the way, he had a good game. He had a really good game taking over for Nugent Hopkins, who was sick. But then the Bruins take that 4-1 lead off of goals from Marchand and Frederick, who had a real good game. DeBrusk, his best game in a long time. Being back home absolutely meant the world to him. I can't emphasize enough the importance of getting on the road. When you're used to having time on the road, it's not time away from your family in a bad way. It's time on the road where the focus of a business trip of hockey is this wonderful routine. If anybody's done it, you know what we're talking about. And you're going into the old Lions Den, this one of the top teams, right? With the most famous player in the world, playing for him. You know that you are on center stage, and you better be ready. And there's that great feeling of all for one for allness when you get there. And the Bruins showed that in that game. And I think they needed that feeling of, okay, wait, the crowd's going to be rooting against us, not for us. We need to come together. We need to sharpen up. We need to be playing what I would call zone-to-zone hockey instead of wide-open hockey. I thought they did all of that there.
They did, and it was a long time at home with the 5 and the 7, and it's routine based though. That's the biggest thing that you mentioned. It's you don't really like the plane or the bus or the hotels. No one really likes that stuff, but you love the fact that you're not doing anything else.
Right.
You don't have to stop and get groceries on the way home.
Right.
You don't have to stop and get lunch. You don't have to stop and, see 2 people that you're not going to, for coffee because you haven't met them in 5 weeks. You get to the hotel, you watch your movie, you play your video games, you get your dinner, you wake up in the morning, you get on the bus, you go to the rink, you go home. It's all laid out for you. No thinking other than just laughing with the guys and playing hockey. And it really...
And the expectations are it's going to be harder on the road. That's something too. And I think for anybody that's a competitor, knowing that things are going to be harder raises your intent, raises your level, even if it's just a few inches, a few degrees, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, and I think after this trip, it was heightened a little bit. And of course, they got the last win, but I think there was a little bit of unsurety within the group. I would expect that, hey, we just lost Lindholm. We're going out on the road, and it's a really tough stretch. We got Edmonton. Calgary is going to make it hard because it's back-to-back, and then we got the best team in the league. And then to finish off out west with Seattle, 4-6. So, you're really concerned, and you don't want this to turn into only 1 win in 11 games. And that's the way they played in Edmonton. I thought they played that way against Calgary, too, in the second and third, because, again, I go back to it tonight. Like, that was a gutsy point.
You don't like the hotel? You don't like the hotel beds?
No.
You don't? Really? You don't like turning the AC down to 65 and making the room as pitch black as possible and absolutely just doing, whatever you want and just I know after a while, but when you haven't been on the road in a while,
maybe the first night, but even that, I don't want to do it. I don't need to fly to Edmonton to do that. Yeah. No, I was over the hotels and stuff by the end. Yeah, I've seen every one of those lobbies, and it's
the lobbies. No, I'm just talking
the room.
Some of the rooms and some of the beds are spectacular, and there's something about it. But I'm with you. The worst is when you cannot get the blinds closed all the way.
Yeah, there's more of those than the perfectness that you're talking about. There's more of the thermometer doesn't work. The heat's too high when you walk in and you want to just go right to all of those scenarios are more of the issue that I remember.
Do the Bruins play up? I think they do. I think like a lot of good teams, I think they do. Their record when they play teams in and out of playoffs is significantly better. Again, it's the old antenna is up. Is that just a common, I don't call it problem, common scenario?
Yeah, I think it is this time of year. And, we just went through the scores from tonight. You go through this. There's a lot of desperate teams right now, especially in the league this year, where a lot of the New Jerseys, the Washingtons, the Pittsburghs, the Islanders, the St. Louis's, the LA's, these teams that are all kind of around the playoff spot and still trying to prove to their teams, their organizations, that they're playoff teams come playoff or trade deadline. So I think this year more than ever, there's a lot of desperate teams, and that's bringing the level up at this time of year that sometimes isn't necessarily there. I think at the start of the year, the Bruins didn't play down at all. I just think some of these teams that aren't as good are really like, this is their last ditch effort at making a playoffs. The Calgarys that they've played, I had to play twice here in the last couple weeks. Like, Calgary's fighting for their absolute lives, even though they know their best players are getting traded. And I think that's what the league has right now, and it's making it harder on the top teams, the Vancouvers, the Bruins, the teams that have kind of gone into that little bit of funk. Winnipeg lost to this Flames team a couple days. Like, it's just hard because I think the bottom's coming up in desperation before this deadline.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, the one team that is riding the wave the other direction, riding high, is the New York Rangers.
Yeah.
They've been really good. And Florida. They just lost tonight as we sit and record this episode. But I guess, like, again, every team goes through its ups and their downs. That's when it's all said and done. I don't want to go off on this much at all, but what do you think of Edmonton? Are they as scary as some people want to make them out to, or are they still flawed? I look at them, first of all, I think just about every team has flaws.
Yeah.
I do think teams like the Rangers in Florida, I think Van's got some issues. I do, on the backside. I do. Not with Thatcher, but backside. I look at Edmonton in that game. I know one game can't judge a season, but I still think that they've got some issues with their depth forwards and their depth defense. I do. And I'm not sure about Skinner. Look, both goalies gave up 5 goals in regulation, so you can't throw stones there.
No, and he's been good in his defense.
Yeah.
But he's not Ottinger, Hellebuck, Demko, who Aiden Hill now is a Stanley Cup champion. So all the guys that he's going through are probably going to be better than him in every series, right?
I agree. Yep.
I think the defense, whatever defense they go up against, they're going to be second no matter what the matchup is. So now you're looking at it that way and you're like, wow, but of course they have the 2 best players in the league. Do the whistles keep blowing for power plays? Can they go on that run that they did last year where they're 60% in the first 2 rounds, whatever it was, ridiculousness? That's really their chance. I think they're more flawed or too flawed. And I think the West is hard. I think the teams that will give them problems are all in the West. When you look at how the Winnipeg plays, how Vegas will play when they get all their guys back. I don't, that could be the first round matchup. You don't want to, they're going to be really hard out. They are. Cassidy's going to have them going. They're going to be different than what they are right now. And I guess the one thing is if they do get through Vegas and the Vancouver matchup seems the best matchup for them.
I would
in the
think
West.
for them that they'd be all right.
They can eat that defense up. Like, I think they'll be more comfortable in that game than they will playing and not having to play Winnipeg, Dallas, or Colorado. Like, they only have to play one of those teams if they go to the finals. So that's their fortune, is that the tougher teams, I think, for what Edmonton does, is in the Central.
Speaking of fortune, back to the Bruins. Charlie McAvoy. The Bruins are fortunate to have him, especially given their situation with losing Hampus Lindholm, potentially having Matt Grzelcyk out. Although we weren't expecting this, Grzelcyk takes warm-ups against Calgary, doesn't play in the game. So I think that's just also a way to say, hey, you know what? Parker Weatherspoon, you've played well. We'll give you this chance to bump you up. We get Shattenkirk into the lineup. We do not in the back-to-back need to risk getting Grzelcyk hurt, But McAvoy's been great.
And Grizz, go get a skate in to make sure you know how it feels.
Right.
Going
Go
into the
test it.
weekend, go give it a little test, see how it comes out. Skate really hard on it for 20 minutes.
There's no morning skate on. By the way, there's no practice on Friday.
Yeah.
And there's no morning skate because the Bruins game on Saturday.
So we need to know how your foot is in the skate, in the boot, after, even if it's 20 minutes, to know if you can go on Saturday or not.
Right. Yeah. So anyway, that was interesting. We did not expect to see him there, but McAvoy over 30 minutes against Edmonton, another 26, 27 against Calgary. And mentoring Mason Lohrei with them. So we can touch on both these guys right now. I don't see Charlie getting Norris Trophy now this year. I just don't, given the point totals of Quinn Hughes and McCarr, and there's some others, but I mean, he's up there in top 10 in points, I think, for defensemen, and or 12 maybe right now, top 10 in time on ice per game. But the last couple of games, I think you've really seen the dynamic, the value, whatever term you want to use, the importance of Charlie McAvoy. Importance,
value are great words, because he really might not ever win a Norris now, the way the league's going.
Because he doesn't score enough.
Because he's just never going to get 100 points. He's just not going to score like that. Yeah. Like the McCarrs, like these guys aren't going anywhere, and the game's not going to score less. But value importance, I would suggest that if you put him on a list of defensemen that general managers want, he's extremely high up. And higher than the guy who's going to win a Norris Trophy this year in a Quinn Hughes, let's say.
Yeah.
There isn't one general manager that's picking Quinn Hughes over Charlie McAvoy if you're building a team.
Right.
As your first D.
Yeah. I would say it's similar-ish, maybe tell me I'm wrong, to how Patrice Bergeron was viewed around the league, even though he would never get 100 points.
Correct. He's never going to win MVP, but
right. He'd be on every All-Star team, every Olympic team, whatever.
Yeah.
Same thing with Charlie.
You're always building a team around him.
Right. He's a core value.
Very, very similar.
So McAvoy, spectacular. Mason Lohrei getting some opportunity to play with him. We didn't do a brew after Edmonton. Lohrei with 3 assists there. Really picking up his minutes again because Grzelcyk out. Another, what I would say, very solid night against Calgary, too. We know there's going to be some flaws, though, to his game. We know there's going to be some hiccups. We've seen it. And that's not being negative. That's being honest here. Very unfair question, but I'll ask it anyway, all right? 2 games up. Does he deserve, no matter what, to stay in the lineup right now? Just where he's at. And I know the answer. It's a game-by-game thing as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah,
but
no, I'm just thinking about his game against Calgary. Like, there was only 1 or 2 softer plays.
He still does that. The soft. Yeah, he's got to get firmer with some of his passes.
And of course, I think both of us kind of think. I think this way is like. The best way to learn that is to get time taken away from you and not play. And like, that's how I learned. That's how we learned. It's not quite how it works now. You don't just put a guy on the bench when he makes a soft backhand play anymore. It's hard to do. They don't coach the same way. So that would be my reservation. Like, okay, he made that play, show him the video, have him sit out a game and then put him back in. But that's not how it works. And I think he was good against Calgary. I was happy with the Edmonton game, the 3 assists, all of that's great. I know he has that in his toolbox. I want to see him more. I want to not notice him more in games. And I thought I did that a little bit in Calgary. And that's a positive thing.
Yeah.
I think he's in the lineup.
He absolutely is right now. He absolutely. And he's earned it. 21
he's long. It's the one thing that I continually notice, though, is that he's long. And yeah, he's not going to be, he's not Scott Stevens, never will be, but he's not, but he's long. He does get in the way. And we talk about size and defense and 6'4", 200, 6'4", 200. He's 6'4", 180, but he's going to be 200 at some point, but he's 6'4" anyways. Mm-hmm. And that's what's on all these better teams. That's what Tampa had. That's what Vegas had. That's what Colorado had when they were winning Stanley Cups. And his length is noticeable.
It is, and and him being noticeable in his first 2 games up is a great sign. Can't have a significant, you're going to make mistakes. Okay, again, fine, that's going to happen. But they can't start being egregious and getting beat off walls regularly, getting, again, he's got to get firmer with his plays. But man, oh man, he's good instinctively, turning it up there. So we saw twice in the Calgary game. By the way, 3 shots on goal, 21 and a half minutes against Calgary. He had no shots on goal, but 3 assists against Edmonton. Found that interesting, but really great with regard to his visual. He had a crossbar in the overtime against Calgary. I've really liked the presence that he's had in these 2 games. It's great. He seems to have learned a bit in the minors too. Now he's got another good challenge coming up against Vancouver, but absolutely deserves to be in. Just like in my eyes, Parker Wotherspoon deserves to be in. His performance against Edmonton, the scrap against Perry, which thankfully the officials got that right. It was definitely an instigator call, but Wotherspoon was able to right himself and handle himself quite well there. And then he continues to block shots, do the simple things, play left side, play right side, do all the stuff that you need out of your 6D. And in many ways, you could argue he's actually your 5 because, and he's put himself into that spot and he's become that utility guy on the back end. We always talk about, we used to talk about Nosek that way, Danton Heinen, now that utility guy up front. That's what Parker Wotherspoon's become.
Connor Clifton-ish. In a way,
he seems to be. Cliffy had those moments of, I know we didn't
Cliffy
like
hockey.
You're right,
yeah,
but
Cliffy
that was
hockey.
So spectacularly, almost over the edge, right? But it was so good that it was great. But then when it went just over the edge, it was like, oh no, we haven't seen any of that from Parker. He is much more consistent, I think, than that.
Yeah, he's been a pro long enough that he gets it, and I don't think either of those guys come out of the lineup, and
which makes it difficult now for guys like a Shattenkirk, maybe a Forbert. Given I know he's a penalty killer, I get it, but you got to start thinking. And again, we don't know what's going to happen before March 8th. Are the Bruins going to make a move or not? I mean, who knows Grizz? Let's see how Grizzlick is. It's just an interesting scenario. You talk about length and how important it's been, and I've talked about it. You mentioned it after the Dallas game, but Brazeau. He's big. Now, he did not play against Edmonton. They couldn't have him. I think they had to take him off the roster for basically salary cap and bodies. They have to move him around. They called up Ian Mitchell as basically insurance because of Shattenkirk being out. It wouldn't surprise me at all if Brazeau's back in the lineup come Saturday against Vancouver, assuming, of course, if Grizz is okay, then they would probably allow Mitchell to go back down. But Brazeau has shown really good length, really good body control for a big man. He's been on the ice for 3 5-on-5 goals already, too. Yeah. His skating is better than from what I had seen. Now, again, he's on a high right now. I'm not being negative. I keep saying that because I think sometimes people think, you're no, I'm not. I'm trying to be realistic here. The kid's been really good, though. He's been really good. Now, does he make your 4th line, that size? You put him out there with Frederick, and all of a sudden, because Freddie the last 2 games would move down there. And it's not a demotion for Freddie. It's Montgomery trying to find an identity on that line.
Trying to make the ice smaller. And that's what those guys do, the length and the size and the reach. And his skating ability has been fine. I haven't thought about it. I haven't looked at it. It's just, he looks like an NHL guy. It does. You can be big and a little slower and look like an NHLer. You can be too small and not look like an NHLer out on the ice.
Yeah.
There's guys that get called up for a game or 2 games and you look and you're like, oh, he doesn't look like an NHLer. That doesn't mean that sometimes those guys don't figure it out.
Right.
But there's a lot of times I see guys that play a few games and I'm like, that he just doesn't fit. But Brazeau does. He looks like a guy who's going to play and could figure out how to play and get around on the ice. And that's just the eye test that I have in my head, and it fits. And with the Bruins and the composition of that bottom 6, he brings something different that isn't available.
Yeah, he can hold off bigger defenders. He utilizes his backside well, and again, along the wall. What I've liked is how he maneuvers in and out of the slot area. He's not stationary. And he has shown to me that he's got very good reads on what lanes to fill and to move in and out of. very important for this team to get some size on their front line. Now, I guess we don't need to get too deep into it right here, but I'm still looking at. I don't even know if I care about the line numbers, but between the third and the fourth line, like I still don't know. I don't have a visual what it's going to be yet. I don't at all. And I think that's where they need. I think they need to add. Of course, we'd love to see a top end. I'll call it a top end wing probably to play with Coyle and Marchand. But if anything, just get another good middle six type guy. Maybe you rotate a guy on that spot.
I was going to say, then it's a committee.
Maybe you committee it up there, but then that other guy goes back down to your third line with a JVR and a geek and creates a mismatch down there. So maybe that's what it is. But I still don't have a vision what that's going to be. Do you have any?
No, I agree.
Okay.
That I'm right on the same page, same wavelength. With if they don't get a high end winger, get someone that can be that utility, another utility guy, and do it by committee, both a third, fourth line committee and a second, I guess, line committee. Whatever you want to call it.
I mean, with JVR and Geeky, maybe you've got your 2/3 of your third line, we'll call it, with another little higher end player, right? That you can move around with that top line type thing, and then your fourth line could be a combination. I don't know. You've got Richard who's playing on the third line, Brazeau, Boqvist. Who knows? I mean, Freddie. Frederick could play on that third line if you need heavier. Then you move him to the fourth line. I think there's options, but I'm not convinced that they're. I'm convinced that they're not done. They're going to make a move.
Me too.
All right. I'm convinced that we've got some great sponsors. Fazenda Coffee, FazendaCoffee.com, the place to go. Go to FazendaCoffee.com/Morning Brew. Check out the Morning Brew blend. Check out other blends too. Go find them out near the Garden. You know what? They're A&B Kitchen and Bar. That's right across the street from the Garden. Fazenda's being served there. West End Johnny's, it's being served there. Fazenda's all over. It is Boston's top roaster. I mean, FazendaCoffee.com/Morning Brew. You could go there and for a special for $50, get 2 bags of Morning Brew and the Morning Brew Clean Canteen, the Traveler. So go check that out. You could also buy 2 bags of something else if you don't want the dark roast Morning Brew blend. If you want a great place to stay, the Omni Boston Hotel at the Seaport is the place to go. And that is the preferred hotel partner of Morning Brew with Jaffe and Razor. And it's the place for all Bruins fans, heck, for all sports fans to go. Because you've got the sporting club, but also because you've got a great hotel in a hot spot of the city that is so reasonably priced. And if you use the code PROBRU, PROBRU, you're going to get 15% off the best rate that they've got online. You put it in the code at checkout when you make your reservation, and they're going to be doing that for months right now, folks. So when the Bruins march their way to the Cup, hope so, that'd be great. Go check out the Omni Boston Hotel at the Seaport. Tons of great restaurants at the hotel, around the hotel, tons of awesome, fun things to do. I mean, it is the fun vibe place to be, close to the Garden, close to the Pike, easy access to the airport within minutes, literally within minutes, you're there. So if you're coming to visit, go stay there. Use the code PROBREW, PRO-BREW, and check it out. Omni Boston Hotel at the Seaport. All right, couple of other things here before we wrap this one up. Talk about Jake DeBrusk getting going. Nice to see him get off the proverbial schneid. He needed it. We needed it. Wanted to see it. Charlie Coyle. Same type of thing. He's earned more runway this year, though. So when he goes a stretch of 6 to 8 games without a goal, I think he had a couple of assists, but not many. Not many. Forgive me. I don't remember the exact number because it's late at night. But he's earned that runway, Razor. And in the past he didn't have that, but because he's had such a freaking good year, and with these 2 goals right now, Charlie has 20 goals and 28 assists, so 48 points. He's put himself to the hey, we're going to trust him zone type of thing.
That's right. You as long as the team can pull out some wins, that like what happened when, and I think what the bigger issue is, and just a little bit of a tangent, is when it's DeBrusk and Coyle.
It's too much.
It's too much.
It's too much.
It's too much. When the 2 of them are 6 games, that's too much. But when one of them, like you said, Coyle, he does get that benefit of the doubt. now because of the streak that he went on in January. You knew he wasn't going to keep that going, so you know he's going to cool off a little bit, and now he heats up, and he does it at the right time in a Calgary game that was tailor-made for him to step up and be good offensively and find a way to chip in for his teammates. So good on him to get to 20, good on him to become a 50-point scorer very soon and really be a huge bonus and add for this team.
Yeah, he had 1 assist in his previous 6, 1 assist against Edmonton, but then he had 2 goals against Calgary, so right there too. The Edmonton to Calgary trip is not far. It's what? It's a 32-minute flight when it's all said and done.
Yep.
I mean, by the time, though, you go from Edmonton's arena.
Yeah, exactly.
What does it take, 40 minutes to get to the airport?
Yeah. And you're de-icing and everything. It takes a little bit.
Takes longer.
Too long.
Right. But then the Calgary thing, up and down,
Yep.
nice and easy. You get in there. Now you got Calgary to Vancouver, about an hour and a half flight or so, as you said on the post game on NESN. They gain an hour, so they have Friday off. They should be able to get some rest there. Hope so. And then they should be ready. And they're also going to kind of anchor in, they're going to anchor in Vancouver. They have late night tonight on Thursday night. Then they have all day Friday off. They'll play Saturday, and they're not leaving for Seattle until Sunday.
Yeah. So
they get a feeling, it's not a vacation, but they get a feeling of settledness. And I think that will be nice for them too, given especially the tough back-to-backs.
Vancouver's a nice place to kind of hang out for the day. They'll be able to find things to do.
There's more coffee shops in Vancouver on every street than there are in Seattle.
Correct. It's a good day to have a day off. And after back-to-back games, you sleep in as long as you possibly can. You get up and have one of those great coffees, go sit by the ocean, whatever it is. So, yeah. And it always feels better 3 and 4. Oh, always feels better getting 3 points out of 4 in Alberta. And now you can, kind of take a deep breath, have a good dinner.
When you were in Van, did you eat sushi 5 days a week or no?
We had a lot of sushi. We did have a lot of sushi. A lot of salmon, a lot of sushi. That's kind of the way to go out there. It's pretty easy, no brainer, right on the water.
The sushi's outstanding. Best sushi in the league, right?
Yes.
I mean, you can go to New York and get unbelievable sushi, but I'm talking...
You're going to pay 5 times as much.
Right. And just the overall sushiness there. What was the name of the place there that everybody used to go? Oh, Miko Sushi.
Miko.
The little place. I would go there and I would take literally a half a salmon.
Yeah.
I would say, just put it in front of me.
Let's go.
Over here.
Yeah, and give it 5 different ways.
Right.
Put some sauce on it.
Oh, so good. And it is a great place. And the guys are going to be very happy, and they get a 4:00 start. So they'll be out to dinner by 8:00, hopefully with 2 points in their pocket. So it's a good thing. Team's feeling better about it. I think the fans are feeling better about it, about their team now, especially after the tough homestand. But again, they get that win against Dallas. Dallas, by the way, has lost their last couple of games since then too. But now they go on the road. They get the 3 out of 4. The Edmonton game to me was very, very important. That they won it, but they won it how they won it. Yeah, they gave up the lead, but that to me is so important. As we started this show with, they showed their resolve, they showed their fortitude, they showed that they, again, even though Edmonton's not considered the best team in the league, we all know that they're scary as hell, and the Bruins didn't buckle against them. And I think, again, that is so important. Hopefully that's something for them to grow on. And I just wonder, and I'll finish with this, do these type of efforts, after that, very dour at times homestand, does it change Don Sweeney and management's outlook for this team, or no, not at all? They were going to stick with what the plan was anyway.
No, I think they think they have a good team. I think they think that the East is wide open. They're top of the entire standings in points, and they're going to try and do as much as they possibly can. Again, I'm still waiting for that first deal. We're still waiting for the first deal. That doesn't involve Calgary and Vancouver. So when that happens, then we can start dissecting even more. So we got 15 days. All
right, real quick then. If you had to put, let's say between, we'll start at we'll go $10 bill,
yep,
20, a 50, or 100 on it that the Bruins will make a big deal for a defenseman. What would you put? Would you put $100 on it or no? Or would you put
it's probably...
I'm going to put 100 down that they make a deal for a nice depth player up front.
Yeah, I'd put 100 down for that. I'd put 50 down that they're going to get a depth defenseman, a good, solid NHL depth defenseman.
5, 6, 7, or 4 through 6? 4 through 6 or 5 through 7?
4.5 through 6.
I haven't heard the fair? 4. I haven't heard the 4.5.
Brandon Carlo's a 4 here, but maybe a 3. But I don't think it's someone better than Brandon Carlo. Let's say
no, because
he's there.
If you're talking a guy like Carlo, you're talking
a lot. That's what I'm saying.
2 first-round.
So that's my $20 bill. Is that there's someone better than that?
I'll tell you what, though, Don Sweeney, Evan Gold, the manager, they've pulled off stuff before in the past. I don't know how they're going to do it this year, but they will. But I'm going to put some money down that they make a deal. All right. Thanks for listening to this Morning Brew with Jaffe and Razor. It's going to wrap this up. Thank you to Berkshire Bank, Fazenda Coffee, Omni Boston Hotel at the Seaport. And don't forget Bruins Authentics, bruinsauthentics.com. Go check that out. They got a lot of great stuff over there. Razor, you and I will be back after Saturday's game against Vancouver. Please go get some sleep, my friend. You are tired. You've earned it. Go get some sleep. I'm going to go get some as well. And we were going to have, we will talk to you, on Saturday. But in the meantime, we're going to have an extra cup of coffee. At least I know I will. You'll have your iced coffee. I'll have my hot coffee because I'm going to need it tomorrow. I definitely am going to need it tomorrow. I got a lot of shit going on. Everybody, have a great day. Have yourself an extra one too.